Sometimes even the most mundane items discovered by archaeologists can become the top biblical archaeology story of the year. Take this comb, for example, that I bought the other day. It has big teeth on one side and little teeth on the other side. It's much like a comb that was discovered in Tel Lachish in 2016, except that comb was made out of ivory, had an inscription etched on it, and was dated to 1700 BC. I'm Gordon Govier. For the past 40 years, I've been reporting on the latest discoveries and developments in biblical archaeology on my radio program, The Book The Spade. And at the end of each year, Christianity Today magazine puts my report on the top 10 biblical archaeology stories of the year on their website. Here's a look back at 2022. This list is a reminder that on a regular basis, we're learning more and more about the biblical world through archaeology. And that helps us understand the Bible better. And it helps us remember that the Bible is unique among religious books for its historical foundation. Ivory, more valuable than gold, and the Deciphering of Ancient Writing link some of the top biblical archaeology stories of 2022. For the first time since COVID, institutional archaeology excavations were back in the field this year, but many of the top stories come from discoveries made years earlier. Which discoveries and which stories are truly the most important from 2022 may not be known for years until the scientific processes have worked through all of the activities of the year. At the top of our list is a comb, a small ivory comb that was excavated at Tel Lachish in southern Israel back in 2016. It wasn't until earlier this year that one of the excavation team members, Madeline Mumquiglo, was photographing the comb and noticed scratches that turned out to be words. In fact, it's a Canaanite alphabetic inscription dated to 1700 BC, about 100 years after the time that scholars currently believe alphabetic writing developed. It was dated by the shape of the letters, and it is the earliest complete sentence in an alphabetic script currently known. This comb has big teeth on one side and smaller teeth on the other side. It's a lice comb. If there was any doubt about that, just read what it says. The inscription is, "May this tusk root out the lice of hair and beard." The word tusk is a reference to the source of the ivory. Combs of this nature are still in use today, showing that dealing with lice has been a problem for a long time. Michael Hazel, professor of Near Eastern Studies and Archaeology and director of the Institute of Archaeology at Southern Adventist University, was co-director of that excavation at Tel Lachish, and it was his student who found the ivory comb. As he told us in a recent interview, prior to this time, everything was written in either hieroglyphics in Egypt or in the cuneiform script by various languages in Mesopotamia. So to have this complete sentence found at this early stage is quite remarkable. This discovery not only provides new evidence for the development of the alphabet, one of the cornerstones of civilization, writing like this on a common object like a comb also suggests that literacy in 1700 BC, centuries before the time of Moses, was not that uncommon in the biblical world. This Canaanite alphabet is the same alphabet that was used to write the first books of the Bible in Hebrew. Number 2 on our list for 2022, another dramatic inscription discovery made headlines earlier this year, an inscription on a curse tablet that was missed in an excavation on Mount Ebal 40 years ago, but recovered just 3 years ago when the dump pile from that earlier dig was re-excavated using a wet sifting process. This tiny tablet is made out of lead that was folded, and the inscription is written on the inside. Through computer tomography, a CAT scan, letters were detected. The inscription reads, "Cursed, cursed, cursed, cursed by the God Yahweh. You will be cursed. Cursed, you will surely die. Cursed by Yahweh. Cursed, cursed, cursed." 2 mentions of the divine name Yahweh and its chiastic structure give this inscription an unusual resonance. Scott Stripling, the head of the team from Associates for Biblical Research that excavated the dump pile, said the inscription is particularly significant in that it was found near an ancient altar on Mount Ebal, identified as the Mountain of Cursing in the book of Deuteronomy. The dating of the lead tablet, 1200 to 1400 BC, also linked it to the time of Joshua and the Judges. The Bible says Joshua built an altar on Mount Ebal. How amazing to have 2 such ancient inscriptions announced in 1 year. Number 3 on our list, as we mentioned, ivory was more precious than gold in ancient times, and in addition to a comb that we just mentioned, there was another big ivory story. Ivory found in Jerusalem for the first time. These tiny ivory pieces were recovered from an ongoing excavation in the Galilee parking lot just outside the Temple Mount area over a period of several years. The ivories were patiently restored to reveal the type of inlays favored by royalty and other elites in biblical times for their furniture. For instance, King Solomon had an ivory and gold throne, according to 1 Kings 10:18. King Ahab built an ivory house, according to 1 Kings 22:39. The prophet Amos proclaimed woe to those who lie on ivory beds. That's Amos 6:4. These tiny ivories were recovered in the ruins of a large building that was devastated by fire, probably in the Babylonian destruction of Jerusalem in 586 BC. As they were restored, you could see the ivory panels were decorated with rosettes, flowers, and geometric patterns. Number 4 on our top 10 list, a major breakthrough for studying one particular biblical kingdom announced this year, the deciphering of the ancient script of the Elamites. The Elamites are mentioned a couple of times in the Bible. They were conquered by Cyrus the Great and became part of the Persian Empire. The code of the linear Elamite script was cracked by a team of scholars using bilingual texts in Elamite and Akkadian cuneiform that were 4,000 years old. Bilingual inscriptions were used in the past to crack the code of hieroglyphic and cuneiform writing. The Elamite capital of Susa is known as Shushan in the Bible. It became one of the capitals of Persia. The story of Esther takes place in the Persian palace at Susa. Despite their subservience to the Persians after Cyrus, the Elamites managed to maintain a presence in Mesopotamia so that Jewish Elamites were recorded among the many who heard the gospel proclaimed in their own language in the 2nd chapter of Acts. Number 5 on our list, magnetic fields. They have joined ceramic chronology, epigraphy, and carbon-14 as a tool for dating archaeological remains, giving archaeologists and Bible scholars a new tool to understand the biblical world. A joint Tel Aviv University, Hebrew University study announced this year involving 20 researchers from a number of different countries and disciplines has accurately dated 21 destruction layers at 17 archaeological sites in Israel by reconstructing the direction and or intensity of the Earth's magnetic field recorded in burnt remnants. They were able to confirm the destruction of the Philistine city of Gath and several other cities by Hazael, the king of Damascus, around 830 BC. They also discovered that the destruction of Bet-Shan and 2 other sites in northern Israel, which had been associated with Hazael, actually occurred 70 to 100 years earlier, possibly at the hands of the Egyptian pharaoh Shoshank. Number 6 on our top 10 list, the Apostle Peter, referenced in a Byzantine church mosaic uncovered along the shore of the Sea of Galilee this year. This mosaic inscription petitions the chief and commander of the heavenly apostles. That's a phrase commonly used by Christians of that time to refer to Peter. The archaeologists believe they found the Church of the Apostles, which according to tradition was built over the site of the house of the apostles Peter and Andrew. If so, that's strong evidence that the site they're excavating, El Araj, is the site of New Testament Bethsaida, the hometown of Peter and Andrew. There's another excavated site nearby, but further from the Sea of Galilee shore that also claims to be Bethsaida. Number 7 on our top 10 list, Hezekiah, king of Judah, back in the news after his name has been confirmed in an inscription that was originally excavated in 2007 near Jerusalem's Gihon Spring. Haifa University professor Gershon Galil has confirmed the reading as well as its unusual character. Galil read the partial inscription as, Hezekiah made the pool in Jerusalem. That echoes 1 Kings 20:20, which says in part, he made a pool and a tunnel and brought water into the city. Up to this point, Galil said, there had never been a monumental inscription of this nature in ancient Israel or Judah that commemorated by name monumental achievements. Other kings elsewhere erected monuments to themselves, and the name of Hezekiah had been found in small seal impressions, but this inscription, found near the underground water conduit that Hezekiah created to defend Jerusalem, is a first of its kind. Number 8 on our top 10 list, an untouched burial cave on a beach south of Tel Aviv. It gives archaeologists an open window to discover new facts about life and burial customs around 1300 BC. The roof caved in under a mechanical digging machine, and when archaeologists entered, they realized that they were the first persons to see the inside of that tomb since it was closed up 3,300 years ago. Much like the tomb of King Tut, discovered in Egypt 100 years ago, this cave was filled with all kinds of vessels and tools that offer scholars a once-in-a-lifetime glimpse at life as it was at that time. The cave dates to the time of the Egyptian pharaoh Ramses II, believed by some to be the pharaoh of the Exodus. Evangelical scholars usually favor an Exodus date about a century and a half earlier. Archaeologists quickly noted that some of the pottery vessels had come from as far away as Cyprus and Syria, as well as nearer cities, indicating lively trading activity at that time. Number 9 on our top 10 list, life on a farm in Galilee, a century and a half before the time of Jesus. That lifestyle came into sharper focus when work on a water project uncovered remains of a farmstead. The farm had been abandoned in haste for unknown reasons, leaving behind an abundance of farm implements, loom weights, and large storage vessels. Here again, a time capsule, frozen in time, according to the dig director. This was a time when the Hasmonean kingdom was expanding north from Jerusalem, and the sudden abandonment may be attributed to the upheavals associated with that era. And finally, number 10. How did a rare papyrus document from about 700 BC end up in Montana, where it had been framed and hung on the wall of a family's home? This fragment, known as the Ishmael Papyrus, for the apparent addressee named in it, is older than the Dead Sea Scrolls. Its owner, when contacted by an Israeli search team, said it had been given to his mother in 1965 when she visited Jerusalem. The unnamed owner generously agreed to donate the papyrus to the Israel Antiquities Authority so it can be preserved in climate-controlled storage. Now, Ishmael is a common biblical name going all the way back to the time of Abraham. The document seems genuine. It's been radiocarbon dated and paleographically dated, and the dates match. However, just exactly where it came from is unknown. We expect to hear more about this story and a number of other stories in our top 10 in the years ahead as more research is done. Out of the many biblical archaeology stories we've covered in 2022, those are our choices for the top 10 as they relate to the importance of biblical archaeology. You could stay up to date on the latest discoveries and developments in biblical archaeology with our quarterly news magazine, ARTIFAX. You can find out how to subscribe at radioscribe.com. That's radioscribe.com. I'm Gordon Govier. Join us again next time for more backgrounders on the Bible through biblical archaeology on the Book and the Spade.